I'm confused. What is this doing?
To be free and flexible and creative was really essential to what I wanted to make, and I didn't find a platform.
I'm so confused. This is supposed to be a shorts live stream. Wait, if I pull up my phone, is it on there? Oh my gosh, it is a shorts live stream. Wait, it did work. Oh, it did work. What? This is it. What? It does work. What? That's crazy. The problem is I have to now look at my phone to see chat. Okay. I don't know how I feel about this. Get the frick out of here. Get the frick out of here. Hide. Get out of here. Piss off. Get out of here. Taskbar behaviors. Bro, get out of here. Dude, what the heck? Bro, what is the... Get out of here.
It felt good.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I can't see you guys. Give me 1 second, people of planet Earth. Give me a second. This just got so much more complicated. Okay. Alright. Get the frick in there. Alright. I'm alive. Hold up. Hold up. So in order for me to see chat, can you guys hear me as well? So if in order for me to see chat, I have to... Okay. In order for me to see chat, I have to have my phone on me. So... hello, Martin. What's up, Fleeing Claw? What's up, that guy's name? Soul Train, Mayor. I don't know how to pronounce your name. What is going on? It is a short stream, and also the man behind the slaughter is on cam. Dude. It's a short stream. I figured it out. Yeah. I don't think I can run ads. It keeps telling me that I should run ads. I don't think you get ads on short streams. There's no advertisements. What's up, everyone? Purple guy. Yeah, we're watching some game theory. I'm putting a hat on. Frick that. We're watching all of Game Theory for a video right now. I returned from the Timeout Massacre. Welcome back, Goose Complex. Hello, everyone.
He felt free. The years of resentment and bitterness trapped in his heart finally released in a moment of pure unapologetic evil. He would make Henry hurt like he hurts.
Yes, I'm still watching every Game Theory. So, for a video, by the way. What's up, Field Steel? Why was it a shorts live stream? I don't know. I wanted to test it out. Someone told me that this is cool, so I just tested it out. I didn't even mean to go live. That was an accident.
In that moment, William became a killer, dropped Charlie's lifeless body, and drove home,
So,
forced to
Kevin?
confront his family problems later
But
that
that's
night. Paul was
just a
also little
theory.
excited by what-
A Game Theory. Thanks for watching. I know, I did it perfectly. It's okay. I don't even like it. Well, no, I don't like you.
he had just done. Charlie's death would remain on the
So,
books as a
Bubbles?
random act of violence.
Say my name,
About
no.
William, there was no physical evidence, nothing that could link
Why
him
is
back
it
to the
so
crime. In
fast?
the weeks that
So I've been watching all of Game Theory for the past few days because I'm doing a video, and the video makes me watch every single FNAF Game Theory. So I've just been watching them at super fast speeds because it would take me forever, way too long to watch them all. So I've watched from the first one, and I'm watching all the way to the most recent one. That's pretty cool, Field Seal. Yeah, but that's the reason why it's so
followed,
fast.
Fredbear's family diner would close for good. 2 high-profile deaths around the restaurant with 2 grieving owners in such a short period of time is just too much bad press to handle.
Yeah.
Besides, Freddy Fazbear's was still open, and it was the newer restaurant anyway. All the equipment from the diner, including the old yellow suits and security puppet, would get retired to that location, and there they would sit for 2 uneventful years. The rest of 1983 and 1984 were spent quietly grieving. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the new cast of characters were a hit. Tragic memories of their yellow predecessors quickly faded. Afton kept a low profile and buried himself in work and research, quickly reaching Henry's level of engineering and even surpassing him. And while Henry slowed down to grieve, Afton kept going, even starting his own company, Afton Robotics, for all those pet
Afton Robotics. Ah, yes, this one. I watched them throughout my childhood. I've watched them all as well, but I have to rewatch them because if I don't, then I love Game Theory, massive fan of Game Theory. I don't remember every single video and every single theory Matt Pat's put forward, so that's why I have to do this. Hey, Sandwich, how's the filling? My mouth, like my teeth, it's like this side right here. It's not doing too good. It's not too good. Not gonna lie.
Projects that were a little bit too experimental for the regular operations of the pizzeria. The first of these experimental projects was a secret workshop under his house, a veritable bunker, which allowed him to work while still monitoring his kids via hidden security cameras. 1983. A passcode that served as a constant reminder of why the cameras were so important, why he was down there in the first place. This was all to fulfill the promise that he had made to his son, right? I will put you back together. This was for him, all for him, right? But cameras weren't enough. He needed to solve the runaway Michael problem. He had to keep him in the house. He couldn't have another one of his kids wind up dead inside of an animatronic.
Bro, the audio for me is glitching in and out. That's weird if it's doing that for you.
Suit. So why not run a little experiment on Michael? You see,
think
all this
Scott
work with
knows
him,
all
we've
the
gotten
lore?
Afton to start learning.
I think Scott knows all the lore to an extent. I think Steelwool Studios has taken over a fair bit. So I think that's a major change.
More about life, robots, the human mind, and what a fallible machine we as humans were. Our reality so easy to manipulate with a few sensory deceptions. Deceptions like sound. With just a few sounds, he had discovered that he could alter a person's vision. He could transform blank, smooth plastic robots into lumbering, twisted nightmares. Nightmares far scarier than he could create with actual materials. They would appear organic, rotting, putrid, terrifying. These would be his means of keeping his son Michael in the house where he belonged.
How many people here think that the nightmare animatronics are real, actual animatronics, or that it all takes place in a nightmare? Do we have any disagreements in chat about that?
Extreme? Maybe. But then again, this was the boy who had killed his son. He would make him sorry. And so Michael would grow up not only dealing with the memories of his own guilt, the hospital room, the pills, the flowers, the death of his brother, but also facing literal nightmares, illusions created by sound. Michael would never forget these either. Years later, as a security guard, he would still draw pictures of them inside of his logbook. But all of these extra projects meant that his home life suffered even more. He was an absent father and a non-existent husband, leaving his wife cold.
Yeah, I'd say you're a bad dad if you were letting your kid get tortured by nightmare animatronics that you had a control over. So, can I say both? Yes, the nightmares are dreams. I think that they're dreams as well, but I've heard a lot of people say otherwise. How in 5 minutes did you get to the ultimate timeline video? Dude, I've been watching them like crazy, I'm telling you. I think Monday I watched all the way up until yeah, just know I've been watching these nonstop. But I've also been working on another video and some other stuff. So it's been pretty busy.
And alone.
Why do you hide inside
I also
your
believe
walls
I think alcohol
when there's
definitely.
music in my
I wouldn't say that alcoholism has been confirmed. I don't know if it's been confirmed because a lot of people tried saying Junior's was FNAF 2 or another pizzeria location, but I definitely think that Junior's is the key to saying William was an alcoholic. You can't say that William wasn't an alcoholic because then you have to explain wasn't an alcoholic without then explaining what Junior's was. If you don't explain what Junior's was, then, and you're like, he's not an alcoholic, but you're like, Junior's is a bar, then that doesn't make sense. So you have to, like, connect that to an actual location. This man is super insane. Why would you do this to yourself? I don't know. I'm making a video, that's why.
halls. All I see is
Content!
an empty room. No more joy, an empty tomb.
And despite her repeated demands that he leave his office and
What
engage
would
with
he
family,
be
he refused
adopting?
time and time again, leaving her no choice but to leave.
Starcom, what would he be
You call
adopting?
that a house? It was like a morgue in there. You need to see your son.
The baby isn't mine.
Well, how's this? I'm keeping the diamond ring.
And through it all, there was one lingering feeling. William wasn't done. He had gotten a taste of what it felt like to be
Well, the weird thing is that he just completely ignored there, which is odd, is, the baby isn't mine. You know, let's just throw that one out there, excuse me.
unleashed. What it felt like to be free. Charlie's murder had unlocked something in him, and he wanted more.
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app
Okay.
and $9.99 a month for a music app.
June 26th, 1985. Putting on the golden Bonnie suit, he lured children one by one to the back room of the
That video
pizzeria
ain't
when
gonna-
no one was looking.
That video ain't gonna be out by 2046. Alright, let's chillax now. That video is gonna be out within the next 7 months. He wanted YouTube Premium.
At first, he was cautious. He would lure them with
This video's
promises
gonna
of
be
cake
good.
and cookies.
I think this video is gonna be good because I'm making it, so I have to sell it.
Them
Obviously.
that their dog had died. He would ask for help with homework. Susie was the first. You never truly forget your first.
Scott caused so much trouble with that line.
But where to hide the bodies? He couldn't sneak out. Someone would see him. He had to hide them in a place where they'd never be found and where they'd never leave the building. They had to be stuffed inside of the suits. No one maintained those things anyway except for him. And so Susie would go into
This is an interesting theory. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but a lot of people say that the puppet puts the bodies in the suits, but then I'm kind of finding myself leaning towards the side that the puppet actually just connected the spirits with the suits. It wasn't so much that the puppet put the bodies in the suits. It was that the puppet connected the spirit with the suits, giving them life. Another sandwich YouTuber? What's up, Rat? When is your next video? It's releasing soon. The thumbnail is being worked on right now. Dude, your sentencing videos were so good. I'm glad you enjoyed them. But yeah, the next video is currently in the thumbnail dungeon.
Chica. Fritz, Jeremy, and Gabriel would come next, but it was easy. It was too easy. And with each little life he snuffed out, his lies got bigger. Their house was burning. They were just being kidnapped. Until the last one where all pretense was off. He let himself get violent. Too violent.
I'll just wait for him after school, throw a bag over his head, hit him with a shovel, and drag him into the...
This This is kind of graphic.
Back of my car.
The body of Cassidy was far more bloody and broken than any of the others. He'd let himself go too far. That one he should have killed. With no more active animatronics left, he shoved the body into the one suit that remained backstage. The long-forgotten yellow Fredbear, now broken and discolored with age. Broken, like Cassidy was broken, like his son was broken. Newspapers reported on this disappearance, naming the whole thing the missing children's incident. Police would even charge William with the crimes after finding security footage of the golden mascot suit luring kids to the back, but they couldn't convict him. They had no bodies, and his face had been hidden behind the mascot suit the entire time. What they had was circumstantial at best, so he walked away a free man. But Henry knew the truth. In these murders, he saw his daughter.
I also believe that someone got charged with something, but I would not be surprised if it was Henry that got charged. Because Henry... Is this a timeline video? Yeah, Gentle Stick. So I'm watching all of Game Theory's videos, and to make a video if MatPat ever solved FNAF, or how close did he get to solving FNAF, and I have to watch all of them. So if you're wondering why it's fast or anything like that, it's because I'm having to watch them all, and I'm trying to get through them as fast as I can. So that's why high speed, and that's why we're watching these.
Charlie all over again. So he threw Afton out of the company and shuttered the doors to the old pizzeria. Henry would keep the franchise quiet for 2 years. This would not happen again. This could not happen again. How could he protect the kids?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised though if it was William Afton that was investigated. But I really feel it makes more sense if it's Henry. I really feel like it makes more sense.
Finally, he developed a solution. He would implement an even more extreme security system in the form of new animatronics, toy animatronics, inspired by the toys that they had been selling years ago. But these were special. They were a new breed of robot with facial recognition abilities.
But most importantly, they're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away.
All the original animatronics, now withered with age, were moved to the new location.
That is interesting though. If you remember, in the FNAF 4 minigames, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and Toy Freddy, I believe, are actual minifigures on the ground. So MatPat might be right. It might be right in that sense that the FNAF 2 animatronics were just reskins or just larger versions of toys that they had sold in the past. So I want to speedrun all of MatPat's FNAF theories. Oh my gosh, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Because not only do I have to watch them, like, the easy part is watching them, but then I have to write a cohesive video from that point. I have to write an actual, because I can just restate everything he says. He says this. I can do that. But then I have to, like, actually make the video entertaining. I have to add, like, scripts, ideas, theories, opinions. I have to make it worth watching. Toy Chica's a pass. That is an opinion. What if Henry is purple guy? I don't think you understand how... I'm just going to let you have that opinion and walk away. This plan sounds like... Hey,
with the plan in place, it was time to try once
I never
more.
said
The
it
year
was
was
gonna be easy.
1987.
Listen, guys. If you're worried about no content, there's already 2 or 3 videos ready to go, ready to be edited. They're already on the pipeline. So don't worry. This video, the reason why I'm working on it is because I already have some stuff ready to go.
And the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was making headlines in local newspapers. Headlines that just so happened to catch the attention of William Afton. Freddy's was back, and without him, that was his idea. His character. Henry was, yet again, trying to cut him out of the picture. No. As long as these restaurants stayed open, William would always come back. Then he noticed the phone number to apply at the bottom of the article. $100 a week to apply call. Afton would go back, not as an owner or co-founder. He would go back in the one place that they would least suspect him. A lowly day shift security guard. And there it was, buried in the back of parts and services, mixed in with the old withered animatronics, was the golden rabbit. With the yellow security badge still on his chest, he used his crank to pull open the spring locks. It was time for Bonnie to give an encore performance.
Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. From what I understand, the building's on lockdown. No one's allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. The position just became available.
1987, 5.
Well, that's the thing. Does the position become available because Jeremy gets bit by the bite of 87, or does it become available because the day shift guard is William Afton? That's where people can get arguing, you'll do anything for content? No, I actually think out my content, and I noticed that there was a lack of content or stuff covering that one area, and I think a lot of the FNAF viewership or YouTube viewership in general would be interested to know that. So I think that I'm making content that is wanted by a larger demographic. Should I make the Freddy Fazbear's pizza? You should make a pizza, yes. I don't actually believe that Henry's the man behind the slaughter. Kevin, I was afraid that you would believe that. I believe Glamrock Freddy used to be at the Pizzaplex. I made a whole theory video. I believe Glamrock Freddy
kids.
used
He didn't
to
know what
be
felt better,
at
getting
the
back into the suit after 2 long years
Glamrock
of waiting, or knowing how
Foxy,
devastating this would be to Henry the next morning. He didn't even try to hide his crime this time, just meant more blood on Henry.
I mean, where's your evidence for Glamrock? You don't have to worry about that now, but I'm just saying to anyone that is thinking about that, Glamrock Foxy, Captain Foxy is what you should be thinking of.
Henry's hands. He'd failed to protect the kids again. The restaurant had only been open for a few weeks, but William was sure that this would get it to close. Good. If he couldn't have Freddy's, no one would. Whenever a new pizzeria opened, he would be there. But as he sat in his bunker, something else started to linger in William's mind. He had seen something strange. The old withered animatronics. They'd been wandering around the building, spurred on by the puppet. It was almost like those old robots were trying to save the kids. Save them? They couldn't, obviously, but still, how were they moving? It was almost like they had been given life somehow. Did he have something to do with that? The following day, the news would report a security guard getting bitten by one of the animatronics during the day shift. Was that bite meant for him? William's curiosity was stronger now than his bloodlust. He had to learn more, but how? There was no way he'd ever be able to get inside another Freddy's pizzeria. pizzeria. Heck, there was practically no way a phrase would ever open again. He needed to create something new, something brand new. He needed to create his own pizzeria.
Due to the massive success and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment.
Circus Baby's Pizza.
Out of curiosity, I just want to say this. How many of you like that MatPat put more emphasis on a personality, motive, and story narrative behind William Afton? Or how many of you feel that it distracts from actual lore connections? Because a lot of what MatPat says about William Afton has never been confirmed. A lot of that's never been confirmed. We just can only theorize. But the way that MatPat presents it is like it's fact, and then it's like a narrative, like it's a story. How many of you like that? How many of you dislike that? My cousin's a FNAF fan, and she had a theory that the withered animatronics were disassembled the way they were killed. Yeah, I disagree. I don't think that has anything to do with it.
World. This would be the place where he could continue his work.
I think there's, I'm sorry to your cousin, but I disagree. I think there's no evidence backing that.
No longer just murdering, experimenting. He needed more kids, and he needed them alive. And knowing that he couldn't show his face on the restaurant floor, he needed a way of remotely capturing his victims and preserving them for his work. With that goal in mind, he designed a new breed of animatronic. Their endoskeletons fluid and flexible. He equipped them with sound lures that could mimic voices. They could isolate children. They could incapacitate and contain them with zero direct input from him. It was brilliant. He was brilliant. Far beyond the simple bars and wires of Henry's designs. And the characters he chose for this were uniquely his. His new roster wasn't going to be tainted by Henry's disgusting barnyard bird. Instead, it was back to his characters, his creations. Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, as well as two special ones. The first, Ballora, was an homage to the woman who left him. Now she would never leave him again. The second, the titular baby, was designed with his baby in mind. Elizabeth, his youngest child. She would always be Daddy's little girl, the one that listened to him, the one that obeyed until the day that she didn't.
Daddy, why won't you let me play with her? She's so pretty and shiny.
Scoop! I'm not gonna lie, it's Rave Hour. I'm probably not gonna read the whole message there. That there are other pizzaplexes in this universe. Dude, Rave Hour, I'm so sorry, but how are you going to argue and make a theory? I'm not trying to be mean here, but I'm just saying, how do you make a theory about other pizzaplexes and their existence when none of that's been confirmed in the games? Like, I can argue that, there's two William Aftons, and he did the exact same thing in another pizzeria in Florida, in Orlando, Florida, or, if he did it in Los Angeles, California, or Boston, Massachusetts, New York City, New York. Like, how do you argue that? But there's no evidence in the games. Like, the theoretical will always exist. Can you look up FNAF adult images? Actually, no. I'll let someone else do that. Bro, sandwiching said YouTube Balloon Boy caused by 7. Yeah, but that's all clickbait. They're just trying to, let's rage bait.
Didn't you make her just for me?
Hurry up and try new Little Caesars Crazy Puffs.
Don't eat Little Caesars.
4 fun-sized puffs packed with cheese, pepperoni, and sauce.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like Little Caesars.
The day before Circus Baby's Pizza World opened, she disobeyed. She didn't listen. Left alone with Baby, she got too close. The animatronic ripped in half and swallowed her whole. A scared and confused child fading into eternal darkness. By the time
So
Afton found
rise
her,
my
it was too
personal
late. She was
preference
gone.
of
He
who
immediately
William
canceled the
is.
launch of Circus Babies under the guise of a gas leak. But wait, as he sat there at the foot of the stage, he noticed that something was different. The eye color of the robot had changed. Baby
I don't
had been
know
with
who-
blue eyes, but now
I don't know who Pink. I think you're saying Pinky? Pinky Pills? Pinky Pills? I don't know who that is.
they were emerald green, the same color as Elizabeth's. Was she?
I will also make
Could
a
this
pretty
all be
fast
connected to
pizza.
the
I
free
hope
moving
you.
animatronics that he
I
had
have
seen
the
at Freddy?
cookbook
He
too.
had
I
to
gotta
know more.
cook
His
some
morning
stuff.
turned to excitement. He had to
What's the crown
return to
dog was
where it all
murdered
started.
by accident in a
1993.
hospital?
This place was pathetic.
That would come out of left field. That would be like the most random inclusion ever. Wouldn't make sense.
Henry had clearly tried to reopen one final time with those old original animatronics from so long ago, but William's damage to the brand had been permanent. These things stank of death. They hadn't been washed in decades. But even if they had, nothing could wash away the stink of murder that haunted these halls. One night, then another, then another. William repeatedly snuck into the old broken restaurant to lure the living animatronics to him, one by one dismantling them, robbing them of their endoskeletons. The metal had to be the secret. It had to contain the remnants of life itself, but he had to know for sure. Leaping out of a room that was invisible to the animatronics programming, he dragged the oversized robotic skeletons back to his underground workshop, back to where Circus Baby watched on with glowing, curious eyes. Eyes that somehow felt alive. Not knowing what else to do, William melted the robotic parts down. 5 animatronic endoskeletons reduced down to one silvery puddle of goo. Could he transfer this living metal to his own creations? He had to try. He picked up a syringe and filled it with the molten metal and injected the goo into Funtime Freddy's twisted, wiry endoskeleton. And suddenly the coils came to life.
Okay, I already made a video on this. I already made a video about Remnant and Agony, and you can find that on my channel. But I gotta say this. Remnant, as confusing as it is, it does require you to read and definitely do some more background research to figure out what it is. But in reality, it's not that difficult. So if you want to watch that video, it's on the channel. But in reality, if you're confused about Remnant, don't be confused. It's actually not that difficult. It's just that they paywalled it in the books to actually learn about it. I have a question that isn't related to the lore. Do you know who Beacon Bonnie is? No idea. She's a creepy art simulated physio got fired last year for using Twitter users hate, apparently. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I don't know too much about FNAF drama. I only know, like, YouTube FNAF drama. Like, certain creators will do stuff, but aside from that, I honestly don't. I stay off Twitter. When I'm on Twitter, I don't normally see FNAF stuff. I see, like news and stuff like that. Sports. Remnant low-key looks like... I'm not reading that. Yeah, Remnant's cool. Interesting, thank you for answering. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for asking the question.
Like snakes writhing in a pile, what had once been cold, lifeless metal moved and jolted on its own. He'd done it. He had unlocked the secret to life itself. Except something was clearly wrong. The movements were erratic. They were violent, angry. Baby didn't act this way. She had been calm.
Ravehour. So if that's your theory that there's multiple pizzerias, and because multiple pizzaplexes, because there's multiple pizzerias, I instantly counter. Then my instant rebuttal to what you just said is that there were actually 7,000 Freddy Fazbear. As many McDonald's as there was Freddy Fazbear pizzerias. You can't prove me wrong, can't prove me right.
Collected. This was clearly something else, something mindless and frantic. Perhaps by mixing the souls and then portioning them out, he had created incomplete beasts. He would need to keep testing to truly understand it. He needed more of this remnant. As he searched the old pizzeria one more time for any remaining scraps of metal, the ghosts attack. His past victims come to collect their due, all led by Cassidy.
Such a great
The five lined
cutscene
up
here.
and blocked the door, and Afton's mind reeled. The scientific implications of this were incredible. Ghosts, real ghosts that he could see all standing against him. But what could they do? What couldn't they do? He panicked as Cassidy approached. How do you stop something that's already dead? Maybe with the thing that resulted in their death in the first place. He would get into his suit like old times. He would regain his power over them just like the day that they died.
William Afton, 100 IQ here.
He was the genius. He was the one in the suit. He was the one in charge. The spring lock snapped into place. Maybe it was his frantic movements. Maybe it was the leaky abandoned restaurant. Maybe it was just fate coming to collect its due. He didn't know. The only thing he did know was that his brain was suddenly filled with searing white-hot pain as hundreds of metallic pins and gears stabbed into his body from all sides. All he could do was collapse, blood slowly oozing out of the suit and pooling onto the floor around him. It couldn't end like this. It wouldn't end like this. His work was unfinished, unable to move. His only option was to survive, to live, to keep living. It took days lying in his own blood, but eventually someone found him. A security guard making a normal report. When he saw the animatronics torn apart in the middle of the party room floor, it caused him to file an immediate report of a break-in. An owner would have to come in and claim the damage. And who else would it be other than Henry? Hope jumped in Afton's heart. Henry would see him. They were partners after all. He would be the one to help save him, to get him out of this suit, to relieve him from this tremendous pain. Henry entered the secret room. His eyes fell on Afton sitting there in the pool of red, and Henry, saying nothing, turned and...
Like, once again, this is really cool. Great narrative piece, great story, adds a lot of background. We only know that Henry might have boarded up the walls. We don't know that that interaction took place. So MatPat dramatizing it, which I don't blame him for. I think it makes it more entertaining and makes it a better video. But at the same time, that's what some people criticize him for.
Walked away.
This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this.
I don't know, I'm not really him. I'm not either.
Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
And so there Afton would sit, hanging on for 30 years, trapped behind walls with an iron will that refused to die. End of this part. I say this part because it's not officially the end of the Afton era just yet, but it just felt like a really solid...
Okay, I really hope he explains some of the dramatic... I've already watched this, so I know what he says, but I just for all y'all who haven't seen it.
Stopping point, the episode has gone on forever. Okay, so most of this is things that we already knew, stuff that's been established and reestablished time and time again by the games. That said, there are two things that I absolutely have to address. The first and biggest is the placement of sister location, or more specifically, Elizabeth's death. To me, evidence in game seems to suggest that it was meant to come before the crying child's death in 1983. The biggest clue to this is that the crying child saw something. Remember what you saw is the phrase that's repeated over and over again by psychic friend Fredbear, aka William Afton speaking through a walkie-talkie in the Fredbear plushie's stomach. But what did he see? Well, I think we can tell based on how the nightmare animatronics are visualized. They have mouths in their stomachs, just like Baby ripping in half at the waist to swallow a kid. There's also the empty girl's room, one presumably left behind by a dead sister. And lastly, it explains why he's scared, and more specifically why Afton wants him scared. He needs his kids to stay away from the animatronics. He doesn't want them getting too close, because the last time one of his kids got too close to a robot, his daughter died. That's then why he sets up the nightmares, to scare both Mike and the crying child away from the animatronics from that point forward. That's why books like the Character Encyclopedia outright suggest that we play as the crying child in FNAF 4. That's why he has a nanny cam following the crying child everywhere.
That's interesting. I never realized that. Anyone else realize that the Character Encyclopedia says that we play as the crying child in Five Nights at Freddy's 4? I've been thinking... I think it's Mike, personally. But that's an interesting detail nonetheless. When should I make the Freddy Fazbear's pizza? I have no idea. At least, bro, this is like Allenster and on a Husband Hotel. I think you're saying Has Been Hotel. I'm just letting you know. I don't watch Has Been Hotel. I have been made fun of for it, but I do not care. I'm not watching that show. I mean, technically, we do in the mini games. That's actually a good point. That is actually a great point. William Afton, one of the stupidest and smartest characters. William Afton is a unique individual. Let's just say that. You know, he's already killing kids, but at the same time, he's not that intelligent. I don't watch Husband Humor.
So he can keep tabs on his kids when they're out of his sight. He can't let another Elizabeth situation happen. The death of Elizabeth also gives William Afton extra motivation for killing. He's a grieving father. His daughter was taken away from him, so Charlie should die as well. He's lashing out at the world after losing his kids. And again, we know that at least one of his children had to have died prior to Charlie's death, based on the mound of dirt that we see in Midnight Motorist.
That mound of dirt. Oh boy, there's a couple theories MapPad has made that he was cooking a whole load of nothing with that mound of dirt.
Also allows Circus Babies to open and close earlier in the timeline, which is how you wind up with Funtime Foxy appearing as Mangle in the FNAF 2 location. Basically, Elizabeth dying first has everything it needs to fit, except for the most important thing, the murder weapon. Why would Afton be building an animatronic with a giant claw in its stomach so early in the timeline? At this point, he just has no motive. It just doesn't make sense prior to 1983.
Ah, yes, motive.
At this point in the story, he hasn't killed anyone, and we know for a fact that the missing children's incident is 1985. So Elizabeth's death coming before any of those events just doesn't work, hence why I placed it where I did in the narrative timeline. Afton's death here is also a bit tricky. We know that he returned to the FNAF 1 location to break down the original animatronics in order to harvest their remnant. We know that he melts down 5 things to become one thing. Candy Cadet makes that very clear. So the 5 things are the 5 endoskeletons from the various animatronics. That would be totally fine if it weren't for one huge problem. On his 5th visit to the pizzeria, Afton gets spring-locked. So either the 5 becoming 1 starts in 1993, but then finishes 30 years later when he reemerges from the wall to add the last endoskeleton to his pile, or he's had himself some reason to return to the original location after harvesting all the stuff that he can. It's not ideal, but it's the one angle that makes the most sense. And with that, this next chapter comes to a close, thereby leaving us with 5 more games to cover and another 40+ years of Fazbear history to recap. When you put it that way, something tells me that this might balloon into 4 parts. Ugh, we'll see. Anyway, until then, my Faz heads, congratulations, you've made it through a massive upload. And hey, if you are still looking for more to watch, then check out the other 5 brand new...
Back when Style Theory first launched. Oh yeah, it turned into a 4-parter. Alright, here we go, next one. What's up, Star Gamer?
Pure Leaf Iced Tea. Real variety. Real brewed.
Let me just read this before I get into it. What's up, Michael? Also, looking from the business point of view, only to have one Pizzaplex wouldn't make sense. Also, in the books, how would there be a roller coaster and stuff? This is why I believe in the Pizzaplex. I don't think you were... Ray Vower, I think we just have to agree to disagree. I think that you're confusing different things, and that's okay. I'm honestly not the FNAF theory police, so have your own theory, enjoy. Buy it boring. Honestly, dude, enjoy whatever the heck you're gonna go do.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, and page 20 of our final FNAF timeline. This is getting ridiculous. Last time we covered William Afton's rise as a serial killer, how the loss of his young son in 1983 caused him to make one fateful promise and
I have to watch him for a video, so we're
I
here.
will put you back together. Fueled by grief and obsession, Afton would lose himself in work and drinks. One night in a fit of rage, he lashes out against Henry's young daughter Charlie, his first murder. This moment becomes the first domino to fall in a long sequence of events that ultimately destroys William's life and the lives of those around him. That one murder gives Afton a taste for blood, resulting in the deaths of 10 more children across 2 different pizzerias.
Was this
Those
announced
children
in
go on
Discord?
to
No,
possess
Emily, I
giving
didn't.
Afton his first exposure to Remnant and the potential solution for bringing his son back to life. The need to learn more about this miraculous power leads him to produce the Funtime animatronics, as well as their capture devices. Robots designed to bring kids to him for experimentation and collection of more Remnant. Except there was one thing that he didn't account for: his daughter's curiosity. He made the robots too appealing, and it would cost him Elizabeth's life.
I still don't think we'll ever really understand the reach of Afton Robotics and the Circus Baby Pizza World. I don't think we'll ever understand that. I think sadly Scott kind of not botched. I don't want to say that he messed up, but I think that unless it's like a book or that way that it explains everything, there's no clean way to go back and revisit all of it in a Five Nights at Freddy's game. So I think sadly we're just gonna have to leave a lot of that speculation.
Now with 2 children to put back together, Afton was more desperate and crazed than ever, returning to defunct pizzerias to steal the possessed metal still living inside their walls. What he didn't account for though were the ghosts, forcing him to pay
Junior's
for
is
the
the worst
sins of his
FNAF
past. When last
game?
we left him,
Yeah,
William
it
was
is
spring-locked,
so bad.
leading to death behind a
Junior's
secret
is the
wall.
worst
Gone,
fan
but
game.
certainly not forgotten, as we're about to
I
see
don't know
Baby.
about the
Today
worst,
we're
though.
finishing up
I've played
chapter
some
2
bad-
of our story,
bad
wrapping up the
fan
Afton
games.
era. Over the next 6 pages, we switch.
I'm not gonna lie, I hate Teelerland. Teelerland was so bad. Teelerland was awful. So I don't know.
our focus to the other main character of the franchise, Mike, a young boy
How
dealing
is
with the fallout of
Kennedy
a stupid
still? How
childhood
is
decision
Kennedy
with
still
tragic
alive after
consequences.
FNAF
A young man
6
whose
is
life is
the
best
best
described
animatronics
as collateral damage.
It's a great
from the last
question.
release of William's whirlwind of destruction. Now, before we begin, let me just rip off the band-aid now. We won't be finishing the timeline today. I know. I'm sorry, I wanted to, but covering FNAF VR, AR, and the security breach wound up.
The fact that you have to even have to talk about FNAF AR is a sin in itself. But I have one question. Okay, how's your profile a sandwich? It's because sandwiches are mutating. He ignored the fact William just buys a whole restaurant with an underground factory on a kid's pizzeria budget. That's true, but at the same time, you know, the logic there, it's just fun. You have to give like that. You have to give ground in that area. Like that makes sense. Whereas, yeah, like you have to give ground. Just you have to, sadly.
Taken me an additional 9 pages of script. And I've already made you wait long enough for this part, so I just had to make the executive call to break this one up into 2. Don't worry, that part is already written. It is already recorded. It's just in the process of being edited. It is a hefty episode. So mark it on your calendar. That one's actually going to be going live on March 25th. It's also coming complete with a live talk back where we go back over everything from the past couple episodes, as well as having ourselves some very special guests. So overall, that one should be a lot of fun. Fair warning, though, the conclusions we've reached that solve security breach, they are controversial. I feel good about them. Like, I think that we've locked in on a lot of the
So funny because he would change his answers like 10 seconds later.
answers here, but they're going to raise a lot of discussion. Let's just say that you're either going to love that episode or hate it. I don't really think there's going to be much in between on that one. Anyway, without any further ado, let's cover a chunk of the timeline that's a lot less controversial.
I think
Let's
he's
meet
gonna
Mike.
hate it.
William still wasn't back. Weird. Michael knew his father sometimes traveled for work, disappearing for days on end, but usually there was some sort of notice, a phone call, a post-it, something. It's not like Michael and his father were close. Far from it. As a household of two suffering men coping with years of tragedy and loss,
it is interesting that Michael Afton ends up in the sister location. We have no idea why. He just like decides to go down there.
No check-ins, no updates, just silence.
Something
had happened.
Cool,
if there's one thing Michael knew about his father,
Scott made up the lures. He went, oh yeah, 1000%.
His father was a careful and guarded man. He held his cards close to his chest, and as such, William had prepared him in the event that something like this.
Security Breach has a plan. Security Breach has a plan. The other one, the other ones in between, like FNAF, I'd say FNAF 1 to FNAF 3 have their own story. FNAF 4 has its own story. FNAF Sister Location has its own story. FNAF 6 has its own story. FNAF 7, Ultimate Custom Night has its own story. They all try to make one story, but the problem is that they were done somewhat individually, that the details in between, they're sometimes a little difficult to fit. The puzzle pieces don't make a perfect puzzle, but you just put the puzzle together as well as much as you can.
This ever happened. Normally, his father kept his home office locked, but in the event of an unexpected, prolonged absence, Michael had been instructed to enter his father's office and look behind an empty set of shelves mounted in the corner of the room. Rolling his eyes, Michael entered the office. Never fully understood how William was able to spend so many hours of his days locked up in here. There was just nothing to do. Most of this place was empty. He dragged himself over to the shelf in the corner, expecting to find an emergency contact list, a family safety deposit box. But what he actually found there was completely unexpected.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be.
The shelf swung open and revealed a giant industrial.
Once again, this is all speculation on MatPat's part. Not that I'm angry with him for doing this, but he had to, just to make something make sense, and just because it's entertaining.
Real elevator, one that led straight down into an underground bunker. But that was impossible. Hidden inside his childhood home was a secret entrance to an enormous underground science lair? It didn't make any sense. Seriously, it didn't make any sense. And yet here it was, mapped directly underneath the floor plan of the house that he'd grown up in, lost his brother in, been tortured in. Michael thought that he'd known his father, a prideful, sad, angry man with petty, everyday problems, but clearly he'd been living with a stranger this entire time. His father had secrets. Suddenly the days of William being locked inside of his office made sense. He'd been here the entire time. Where was here, though? Was this Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals? The Circus Baby restaurant always did seem to be a deeply personal project for father. A failure of his that cut unusually deep, especially after that first location had to be closed prematurely due to the gas leaks. After that day, father really did seem to change, to lose
Once again,
himself.
narrative stuff here. What's up, geeky horror
Before every
gamers?
game,
Like, why make a giant wall of
from my
steel
dad.
for a 10-second cutscene? I agree.
Even more in his.
I agree that the FNAF movie was right for having no metal doors. I like that they didn't add those, because I feel like it would have been boring and it wouldn't have worked well.
Clearly, the entrance he had found was some sort of secret back way into the facility, one that required crawling through vents to navigate. His father had been working here, but in secret. Why? And that's when he found her. At the end of the facility, Circus Baby, his father's pride and joy. Except something was different.
I feel like the Aftons would have a favorite candy. It would be crying child likes candy theory now exists. Food theory.
Somehow. And
that's a good food theory.
She also felt familiar.
There's something bad inside of me. I'm broken. I can't be fixed. Will you help me?
Was this his sister? William's baby girl? But how? Why? What was this place? He dug around some old files and found blueprints outlining the features of these animatronics. Storage containers, voice mimicking, parental tracking. And was that a child in Freddy's stomach? Was his father collecting and experimenting on kids? Were all the rumors that he'd heard throughout his past actually true? That the animatronics came to life at night? That there were murders done in all the pizzerias? That his father had somehow been the prime suspect in all of it? Suddenly, Michael's mind flashed back to his persistent nightmares throughout his childhood. Had he been experimented on too? Tears stung in his eyes as anger, fear, and confusion filled his body. His father's secrets were pouring out. William wasn't just a lame, overworked father. He was a monster, toying with life itself. Suddenly, everything clicked. He frantically looked around the room, blinking human heads on poles staring back at him. Green eyes, his sister. Blue eyes, his brother. Closed eyes, his mom. All just staring, expectantly. These were meant to be human. William was working down here trying to make believable humans, literally rebuilding the family that they had both lost. The small...
MatPat and Robo-Humans is an unbelievable pairing. You guys think that, Godzilla and Kong is cool. You think that, Batman and Robin is the ultimate team up. You think that Gregory and Glamrock Freddy is a team. No. You haven't met MatPat and Robot people.
Little girl robots with their British accents roaming the hallways of this underground facility suddenly took on a whole new context.
What is the worst FNAF game other than AR in your opinion? I hate Five Nights at Freddy's. I really don't like Five Nights at Freddy's. The worst one. Ultimate Custom Night, I absolutely despise.
Is it the same person?
Were those meant to be his sister? A replacement for her? A clone? Was
Yeah, I
building
think get
clones
over to
of his
Ben.
sister? They seemed to know him, after all, to react to his presence.
They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
He always did have a bit of a resemblance to his father. Michael's
It's not
mind
the
reeled
worst,
as the
though.
reality of his world
Bad,
crumbled
though.
to dust.
Martin,
No,
don't
he
take
had to get
that
them
as
out
a
of there.
W.
If this really was his sister,
I
if
hate
any of
Ultimate
these
Custom
things
Night
were
so
human
much.
souls, whatever remnant of the humans that they once were, they needed to be rescued.
They always put us back inside. There's nowhere for us to hide here.
Led by the voice of Circus Baby, he marched through the now empty halls of the Funtime Auditorium. He would lead them. He would protect them. And finally, he would be able to forgive himself for the killing of his brother so many years.
I love FNAF 2 the game. I will watch Markiplier play it, but that's it. I do not want to play it.
You are in the scooping room now. The scooper only hurts for a moment.
Scooper? That
Scoop,
violent
scoop.
extraction arm? Michael had seen that one in the pile of blueprints. Something about heat rendering the magical silver metal inside
Scoopity-doop.
useless. In reality, prior to getting himself spring-locked and put behind the wall, William's methods had become
I hate
increasingly
the FNAF
sophisticated. The
3
mechanized
troll
arm that can
game.
infuse
Ow,
new
my
bodies with
back.
the soul. William could finally give and take away life. The only thing he needed were the bodies.
Okay.
But William wasn't the only one looking for bodies, as Michael was
What
about
do you
to
think
learn.
they will put in the FNAF 2 movie? Do you think they will tell people about it?
If we
What?
look like you, then we would have somewhere to go.
Michael was going to be the hero to help these animatronics, all right. He was going to help the haunted tubes and wires of these animatronics escape.
I wish I could comment a lot on what I'm watching, but the problem is that I believe or agree or know most of it. So I'm kind of just watching it to say that I watched it, and then I'm going to go off stream and I'll actually work on the script. So we're watching this, but I'll talk to you guys in chat. What video am I on? I'm on part 3 of the FNAF, Game Theory's latest FNAF timeline. Scoop Ice Cream. Isn't FNAF 2 your most played FNAF game on stream? Yes, but that's because it's one of the few FNAF games that I can watch. And the reason why I played FNAF 2 a lot on stream is because I can play FNAF 2 and read chat. That's the thing. I can't do that with FNAF 4. I can't do that with FNAF 6. I can't do that. I mean, I could do it with Security Breach, but we all know that I don't like Security Breach. So it's just one of those FNAF games that I can actually multitask. FNAF 3, I can't really do it on. So FNAF 2 is the one that I can actually talk to chat and stream. That's the only reason why.
Just not in the way that he anticipated. His sister had lied to him. Another game of pretend. The scooper plowed forward, digging its extraction arm into his body. As he heard his bones ripping through his flesh, Michael blacked out.
But something is wrong with me.
I'm dead.
I should be dead, but I'm not.
For the next several months, Michael's life was not his own. He was forced to comply with a tangle of wires and
So
spirits.
Ruin is the latest event in the FNAF timeline? Yes. Help Wanted 2 taking place before that.
He was a walking, talking, rotting corpse. Alive, but wishing he wasn't. He was a puppet, a walking shell. And while he did his best to conceal his fate, there was only so much a man filled with robot spaghetti could do. The entity in his innards would eventually leave, but by that point the damage had been done. His decaying flesh stank, turning him into a literal purple guy. But still, even with no bones, even with rotting purple flesh and begging to die, Michael continued to live. That silvery metal remnant injected by the scooper meant that he couldn't die. His anger...
Hey, MatPat was on top of the Remnant game. Also, by the way, I just want to throw that out there. I think that if Steel Wool makes a FNAF game and it's a prequel and it goes back in time, I think that they're going to be I don't like that idea because they left us with such a plot like hanging in the Mimic and Cassie and Gregory and Vanessa and all this stuff going on post Ruin. I think that if they were to go back in time, they would be doing a disservice because to go back in time at a time when we need answers about the future and the community wants answers about the future, I think them going back in time would be negatively affecting Five Nights at Freddy's as a whole, as a franchise, as a media entity, rather than going into the future, whereas they've set all this stuff up. I think it would be bad. What's up, phone guy? Who even likes Security Breach? Dude, I know people who like Security Breach, and when I ask why, it is not a coherent opinion at all.
Also refused to die. What he had seen down there in his sister's location had rocked him to his core. His father had killed and captured dozens. His experiments had killed his sister and then tortured him throughout all his childhood. He was actively trying to build human replicants. He didn't know where his father was, but Michael knew that he was out there somewhere.
I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you.
Michael had to correct what his sin to his father. He had to make things right. Michael would burn Fazbear Entertainment to the ground. I mean, what else could you do when your skin was permanently purple? Michael's strategy was simple. He would apply for night security guard positions at the old defunct pizzeria locations. That way no one ever had to see him or smell him during...
By the way, Rave Hour, I never want to go into the Pizzaplex again. I'm done. Steel was good at VR games only. I liked Ruin, but then again, I don't know if you count Ruin.
His shift. And all these old shuttered locations did need guards. Teenage vandals and squatters were always looking to get inside these abandoned buildings, and yet no one ever really wanted to work an overnight graveyard shift unless they were practically out of options. Enter Mike. One by one, he would take on jobs security guard, changing his name each time to ensure that no one was able to follow his...
You guys know the joke? If you can get a job anywhere, you can get a job at McDonald's. Not even McDonald's would hire this man.
Paper trail. Once inside, he could tamper with
Opinion on Help Wanted 2. I haven't played it, but the gameplay that I've seen, it was good.
And figure out how they worked, writing about his experiences in his security logbook. Well, there he would listen to the old tapes where upper management awkwardly welcomed new recruits to their summer jobs, even though he was working there nowhere near the summer months. He heard the gory details of his father's franchise from outsiders looking in, confused and afraid about what was happening in the walls around them. Sometimes he would see his brother in the form of the Golden Freddy suit. It's me appearing on the walls around him. Except now, there was something else there. He was no longer alone. Another angrier presence was also in the suit, as if two spirits were forced to share the same body. And Golden Freddy would attack him now. It was aggressive. Its vengeance wanted to lash out at anyone with the Afton name, anyone who wore a security guard outfit. Over time, Mike worked his way through the old restaurants, the original pizzeria, the bigger, better Freddy Fazbear's. He spent weeks there looking for clues as to his father's whereabouts. And each time at the end of his week shift, he would then set the location on fire. Remnant can't survive high temperatures after all. So burning away...
I don't know if the FNAF 1 location was burned. I don't know. I think saying that everything was burned down is a little bit of a... Is it like attributing more to Mike? But then again, you know, it's like the argument earlier. You could say it's burned. You could say it's not burned. If anything, it makes the Phantom animatronics make sense in a way. So if you want to have your tomato called Tomato, then I'll give you a tomato called Tomato. I think it'd be nice to see what happens to Cassie. Yeah, but they could do that another way. Oh, by the way, I can explain in real life lore.
Way whatever spirit-laden
I don't know,
animatronics that still
Gentle
existed
Sick.
inside seemed like a winning strategy. All this revisiting of his past, though, was causing the nightmares to begin again. Hallucinations that brought him back to his childhood. The guilt around killing his brother. His dreams were oddly mixed with the shrill phone calls of the security guards. But it would all be worth it in the end. The goal was to eventually stumble across the one location, the one job that would finally reunite him with his father. Little did Mike know that that day would come sooner than he expected. 2023, an advertisement came across Mike's TV. Fazbear Frights, a new horror attraction inspired by the awful crimes that occurred around Freddy Fazbear's Pizza so many years ago. It made Mike sick. People looking to make a quick buck off the tragedy of others, off his own family. This wasn't a joke or entertainment. Regardless, he had to be a part of it. If this team was combing through his family's history, they might stumble across something that could be useful. And if his father was truly still alive as he suspected, there'd be no way that he wouldn't show up here. Maybe finally.
Once again, narrative, at least it's entertaining.
Finally, this could be the final chapter in his family's marathon of tragedy. Mike applied for the job and was immediately handed the keys. Years of doing
Opinion,
this taught him that security guards
Security
rarely
Breach is a
received
bad
federal
game. Opinion, I agree with that opinion. What's up, Tiffany?
security checks. They also liked how creepy Mike looked. They thought it was a costume, on theme for the job, but little they knew.
Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting this time.
For weeks, there was nothing, but just as Mike considered giving up, he received the call that he'd been waiting for years.
You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one.
Could this finally be him? Sure enough, there he was. William inside his iconic golden Bonnie springlock suit, only now it was green and decaying with age. And there they were, a small family of broken men finally reunited. It's been a long time, Dad. Mike had always struggled
Too
with
bad they
fantasies
didn't hug
passed
it
on to
out.
him, but now all the animatronics he'd encountered over the past months, hopping from pizzeria to pizzeria, suddenly sprang to life. Their burned faces
Star
haunted him
Wars,
as he tried to keep track of his
that
father on
is
camera.
true,
So it
but
seemed
at
that
least
William's
William
mere
is
presence
better.
had put the
Peek and
spirits on
Bonnie is
high
a
alert.
bug
Ultimately, they were
animatronic.
harmless, more annoying than anything else. But there was one that felt different from the others. One that was more than just a mere phantom. The security puppet. If he looked at the cameras at just the right moment, he could see it floating there through the holes. He could even see its reflection in the water pool down the ground. It would seem like he wasn't the only one there on a mission. While he was dealing with Springtrap, Michael assumed that this one was likely dealing with the spirits of this place. Finally,
yeah, Michael's just like, bro, I see that marionette. I instantly see, I see that thing trying to, obviously, put everyone's souls to rest, because that's just very apparent and very visible. Fun fact, I'm currently working on making a Springtrap paper mache mech. Good luck to you. I've never made any, like, fan cosplay or stuff like that, but I've never been into cosplay, so maybe someday I'll find something and I'll wear it up for a stream and try to be funny, but I'm not that into cosplaying. Oh, that thing is just that some VR difficulty things aren't really Bonnie being by. I must go do something. Alright, see you, Rayvar. Why are we talking about the Phantoms, aka the worst FNAF characters? Nah, the worst FNAF characters, 1000%, without a shadow of a doubt, are the toy animatronics. They are so... they're so stupid. The Phantom animatronics, though they're not awesome, I kind of like them better, and it might be because, obviously, I'm biased because I don't like FNAF 2. My mod likes FNAF 2. Martin, I'd never admit that he was right with anything, so obviously I'm biased, but, you know. I won't ever admit it.
He's setting him to rest. Hopefully this means a happier day for all of us, Mike thought to himself. And in that moment, he felt the air around him release, like pressure being let out of a bottle. The building sighed, as if 5 spirits had finally been allowed to move on. He had the sense that his brother was a part of them. He rigged the wiring inside the building to misfire, and the dry, desiccated walls erupted in flames. It is finished.
YouTube Premium is
ads.
It's ad-free YouTube and exclusive access to all.
This sounds awful, but I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna this is gonna make someone angry out there, but technically FNAF 3 being burned down by a malfunction isn't you could argue it. You could argue Mike burnt it down, but at the same time, with how like that game, you have to actually reboot your own ventilation system to exist and live. I'm just saying that building was already knocking on death's door. Was that the bite of 87? Exactly. Greatest quote of all time. What's up, Christian? I like all the robots. I don't really hate any of them. I do hate some of them.
Except it was not. Somehow, through sheer force of will,
I hate Glamrock Chico and Glamrock Roxy. They just talk too much.
Remained. He had survived, and Mike would need to find a new way of finishing off his father. Luckily, the solution would present itself later that year. Not from Mike, but from another victim that had been left in his father's wake.
We're talking about becoming a Fazbear Entertainment franchisee, restaurant ownership and management, something almost anyone can do with a limited degree of success.
How many people in chat would want to become a Freddy Fazbear franchisee?
You are now the face of the newly rebranded Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Fazbear Entertainment as a brand has been closed for years. William had been stuck in a suit and a wall. The only person who legally could bring the franchise back was Henry, but he'd largely pulled out of the franchise around the time of his father's disappearance. Something was up. Surely this had to be some kind of a trick, right? Mike, doing what he did best, applied for a franchise and immediately got the job.
Buddy, you fell. Mike fell for the ultimate trick, and that was the scooper. This dude couldn't fall. This guy could fall for a pyramid scheme, and it still wouldn't be as bad as the scooper scheme.
The ordinary. Paragraph 4.
If you are playing this tape, that means that not only have you been checking.
Am I allowed to make the Balloon Boy recipe in the FNAF book? Dude, I know. Be a part of that murder place? No.
No employment contract he'd ever signed required him to keep special lookout for independently moving animatronics outside the restaurant. Now he knew something was up here. Henry was luring them all back. Rather than trying to go to them, like Mike had done for years, Henry was doing the opposite. He was putting them all under the same roof. He was finishing them off for good. Mike knew this wasn't meant to be a restaurant. It was meant to be a prison, a containment vessel, a lock.
I just imagine Henry outside smoking a cigar or cigarette, and he just throws the lit cigar or cigarette onto like a gas canister. And then that, like, leads a trail all the way to the pizzeria where it burns everything down. So it's just like, he just sees it, and he just throws it, and just, and everything explodes. That's my thought. This is so sped up. Yeah, I've been watching every single game theory video. MatPat, you're an inspiration. You're the reason why I started YouTube. But at some point, I've been watching your videos for like the past 72 hours. More than 72 hours. But at some point, I'm sorry, but I do get tired of your voice. So I just speed it up. Also, I can't watch this in that time frame. It's like, I'm watching over 20 hours of FNAF footage. And I have a job in school. Skill issue, not gonna lie. That's an amazing headcanon. I'm telling you, that would be sick.
Box meant to trap them all in so they could finally end the madness. It took a few nights, but eventually everyone was there. His father, the puppet, the robot, spaghetti.
Favorite FNAF animatronic? Nightmare Fredbear.
That had once violated his body, and his sister.
I like Nightmare
hopelessly
Bonnie
devoted to
too,
serve
but
the man
Nightmare
that had once
Fredbear's
forgotten her kill. It was time. He had been instructed to seal the doors and leave, but while he locked everything down, he didn't move on. If this was truly meant to be the end, if the remnant needed to be washed away, he needed to be a part of that.
This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you, although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want.
Henry just assumed he didn't want to live.
And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace and perhaps more waiting for you.
How would Henry be smoking and making that speech at the same time? Well, he would have a cigar or a cigarette, and then he would be given the speech. The reason why I don't think that's canon is because you don't have that classic smoker, like that like smoker's cough that like every smoker has. So that's my only thing that's like he doesn't have. Also, Henry's old, so maybe he didn't smoke because smoking gives you cancer, and cancer's bad, kids.
The devil waiting for
And with that, it was over. The Afton legacy died with all of them trapped inside of a literal box. As the flames danced around the office, Mike, for the first time in decades, was happy. But William wasn't gone yet. Although the darkest pit of hell was open and waiting for him, something or someone wouldn't allow him to move on. Instead, he found himself locked in moments from his past. The pizzeria, his son's room, his underground bunker. It was as if his brain's neurons were all firing at once, overloaded, mixing and matching all.
Least favorite FNAF animatronics? I hate Glamrock Chica. I hate Glamrock Roxy. I hate Roxanne Wolf. I guess you want to call her that. I hate Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy is just insufferable. I hate Toy Bonnie. I hate Balloon Boy. That's classic. And I hate
all his biggest fears, regrets, failures. What was this place? How did it get here? He called out into the silence.
Hey, Bonnet. What's up, Signal?
Then they started coming. Without warning, animatronics, both new and old, began to jump out at him, bite him, rip him limb from limb. The pain was immeasurable. Make it stop. Make it stop. William, for the first time, longed for death, an end to this torture. Just as it felt like he couldn't take it anymore, everything was quiet again. It was as if the world had been reset. There was a brief moment of quiet, and then the onslaught began again. Dozens of faces from his past all focused on him. A waking nightmare that he couldn't escape from. More pain, more ripping. It was his own personal hell. But why? Why couldn't he just die? And then he saw them. A group of characters he never thought he'd see again. Those janky, stolen characters that had started everything. The mediocre melodies. It had all started to go wrong once they showed up. Once Henry had made them. But mixed in with their obnoxious southern drawls, William heard something else. It was barely a whisper, but he could just make out the words.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not going to let that happen. I will hold you here.
You don't hate anything else.
I will keep you here.
Enough.
No matter how many times.
Bad for William. I don't feel bad for William at all. He's a psycho. Also, there's a video coming out that you might enjoy if you won't feel bad for William. If you feel bad for William, there's a video. I hate Phantom Balloon Boy. He's actually one of the most annoying. I love Glamrock Chica and Glamrock Roxy. They're adorable. Oh my gosh. I hate them. They're so annoying. We can take you to your parents. I'm the best. You don't have any friends. I'm the best. You don't have any friends, and yet I talk to myself in front of a mirror for the entire game, and I think I'm the best, because I'm obviously the best, because I'm Roxanne Wolf. But does that mean anything? No, I'm an animatronic, and I get freaking go-karts smashed into my face with my eyeballs ripped out as my last piece of dignity. And instead, I walk around shuffling like a blind person, and instead I grab everyone that I see. Yeah, the funny thing is, I'll never get my eyeballs back, because freaking Freddy has my eyes, and the head of Freddy is gone somewhere with Gregory. So, either way, I'm never getting back what I wanted. Did I do it? Did I do a good job there? Playing such location custom and controller, and you will despise Bonnet. I could imagine that the controller. That'd be awful. What about Ruin Roxy? 5 seconds of death, I guess, redeems the 45 minutes that I had to deal with her.
Ernest.
That voice. You knew that voice, but from where?
That's true, Alistair. He does a very good job of very, very good job with the narrative.
The one he shouldn't have killed. William thought back. He'd done a lot of awful things, but there was always the one that stood out. Not Charlie, his drunken act of revenge. Not Susie, his first true murder. No. Instead, it was the one that he had lost control with. The one that he had broken beyond repair for no good reason other than because he could. The one that he'd stuffed inside the golden bear that his partner used to wear. Cassidy. They were back, and now they were trying to punish him, to make him suffer like he'd made them suffer. It was almost like William and Cassidy's souls had been locked together, fused by a collective rage and spite, each refusing to move on. But while Cassidy was so focused on taking revenge, he actually did the one thing that would be the downfall for so many others. They kept William alive. Even though fire should have destroyed the remnant that was coursing through his being, Cassidy kept William breathing, paving the way for his escape. William's will was so strong, his soul so powerful that he managed to put a part of himself inside the circuitry that housed the spring-locked suit. And there, his consciousness lay, inside a single circuit board, waiting for someone to find him and set him free. A person that no one was.
So MatPat's theory was released before the Mimic. I just want to make this very clear. MatPat's theory was released before, I believe, before the Mimic. Maybe I mean, Can I, like, escape? It was released in March 12th. So, I guess some of that dialogue had somewhat started. But yeah, it was a little bit before the whole Mimic, Ruin releasing, all that stuff. So, just want to throw that out there.
Okay,
oh, plush babies. I hate those things. You know what? That was a great point out, General Stick. Like, I hate Glamrock Chica and I hate Glamrock Foxy. You mean Roxy, because they sound like bratty women. They sound like, oh, when I have... No, I just hate them because they just think that they ruin the atmosphere of the game. You will get a sniper rifle. They are so annoying in VR. What's up, Muffin Kingdom?
So a bit of a shorter chunk, but an important one as we shift perspectives.
so
Mike can tell his side of the story. And with FNAF, VR, AR, and security breach having so much to explain, I didn't want to rush through things by trying to cram it all in here. Don't worry, I know you've all been patient. The final video is happening on March 25th. That is locked. It is getting ready to go. Trust me, I want this thing to be over and done with.
Oh yeah,
as much as you, I'm not just stretching it out for the views. But before we wrap up for the day, I did want...
You're not stretching it out for the views. Pat, we both know that you make a lot more money if you do double. So I'm not accusing you. Not accusing you. I know that you were stressed, but I'm like, hey, I would do it because I'd make more money. I'm not going to lie. If I had a 4-part series and a 3-part series and I knew that I was going to get, 10 million views minimum on the 3 parts and I could make a 4th one and talk about things a little bit more and also get more money, I'm not going to deny it. I would do it.
I want to talk about the big Orville elephant in the room, Mike's quest for revenge. You might have noticed that I was vague about the dates, and there's good reason for that. I don't know him. There is no good way for me to make him fit in. Here's what I do know. We know with high amount of certainty that Michael Afton is the character that we play as up until Ultimate Custom Night. Mike Schmidt and Fritz Smith, the security guards for FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 respectively, get fired for, quote, tampering with the animatronics and odor. So weird connection between the two of them, right? But now, look at the phantom animatronics that are haunting us in FNAF 3. They use models from both FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, meaning whoever is sitting in that security guard chair, Fazbear Frights, they have to have seen both locations and their animatronics. And that's not all. Their designs are burnt. It's a weird detail in the game, and it's something that the character encyclopedia
Oh, this is when he talks about that, yeah.
repeatedly calls attention to. The burned texture for these phantom animatronics. Why is that so unusual, though? Fazbear Frights is the first time in the franchise that we hear about anything burning down. From that point on in the story, it's like the characters turn pyro and are suddenly setting fires left and right. But for the first 3 games, nothing ever catches fire. The animatronics are just moved or repurposed in some way. So when did they burn? And why would our security guards see them as being burned? Someone has to have been going location to location, setting these places on fire, purging the sins of the past. We know we're definitely playing as Mike and Sister location in FNAF 6 based on the in-game dialogue. And in FNAF 4, there's an Easter egg where we can hear the phone call from Night 1 of FNAF 1, meaning that whoever's in that bedroom has heard the recording as a security guard. We also know that Mike has seen the nightmare animatronics based on his drawings in the security logbook. So overall, there is
I just want to say this, though. You can have nightmares. For example, I don't know if I want to admit this on stream, but I had a nightmare. I had that nightmare where you're naked in school, and I had a presentation in high school. It was 10th grade. I had a presentation, an English presentation, and I had a nightmare. The night before, like that nightmare where you're naked in school, I had that nightmare the night before. So if Mike was to have hallucinations and nightmares and all that stuff about burning down a location, it would almost make sense. In a way, it would make sense. I mean, Matt did have to write some stuff for 4 of his channels. I think he's had enough stress to make every edit, so I'm not really glad. Chica's old voice lines are way more annoying than her current voice lines. Dude, Glamrock Chica's voice lines are the worst.
solid evidence that connects all of FNAFs 1 through 6. You'll also notice how the character encyclopedia doesn't have a page for Mike Afton. This thing has a page for Chocolate Bunny Bonnie, but not Michael. Some tells me they don't want us to confirm how many games he's been in, because that would confirm too much of the theory. In short, this gives us an incredibly compelling and complete narrative. Mike as our...
But sadly, when you make a character encyclopedia and you leave out multiple characters that are essential to the lore, what's the point of even buying the book?
protagonist, and William, his father, as our antagonist. Mike accidentally kills his brother in Fredbear's mouth, which begins our story and sets William down his path to destruction. Mike is then haunted by the guilt of his past and is looking to make things right across the rest of the games. In Sister Location, he learns what his father's been up to and realizes what he has to do to correct it. After failing to finish the job in FNAF 3, he ultimately helps Henry end it all in FNAF 6. It is great. It is a clean narrative. There is just one problem: timing. Mike's quest can't really start until he's been down to Sister Location, seen Baby, and gotten himself scooped. That's when he finds out about Afton's secret life. It's also when he's gonna start to smell, because, you know, he's a walking, talking, rotting corpse. And we know that he's not going down into the bunker until the funtime animatronics have been made, Freddy's has been closed, and Afton is out of the picture. That all should be happening post-1993, after William is sealed behind a wall. But that then presents us with a few problems. Afton has already dismantled the original animatronics as we see in the FNAF 3 minigames. How are those things getting burned if they're already deconstructed? But more importantly, we see FNAF 2 paychecks with the date 1987. That is way earlier than I think it can be. To be fair, Fritz Smith's pink slip on night 7 doesn't have a date, but it's a bit weird to say that the first few nights are in 1987, and then employee number 3 is hired on years after the restaurant closes. Anyway.
Well, here's the thing. You guys also have to remember that Mike's paycheck in FNAF 2 says November, but if you listen to the recordings, it says summer job. So it's very weird. It's very difficult to figure that out, and it gives you some wiggle room.
I just wanted to call that out because I don't have a solid answer for it, and I'd love to see your comments down below. And with that, my friends, this chapter comes to a close. We'll see you on March 20th.
Matt didn't retire, by the way. He just quit the 4 channels and became a parent to his son and his wife or something. I don't know. No, he's gonna go use that money that he made. He sold the channels. He made a lot of money. He's gonna go take that money and turn it into something that he's gonna want. We didn't start the fire, but it's always burning because the world's been turning. I'm not related to the events of December 18th to 2012. I don't even want to Google that day. FNAF takes place in England.
5th for the grand finale as we cover the final 3 games of the franchise and the controversial answers we think solves what those games were trying to tell us. Until then, my Fazheads, remember, even though Afton kind of succeeded in being brought back to life, gotta admit, he's still looking a little bit on the dry, dehydrated side. I suppose 3 fires and being dead for a decade will tend
Ad read. All right, we are making progress here, ladies and gentlemen. And I think I solved Ruin, so I have to watch. I might not even include. I'm gonna watch the Ruin videos because I said that I was gonna watch all of Game Theory, but I'm not gonna.
Now everybody's gonna know that.
I'm actually curious whether I should talk about these. I might talk about the ones where he tries to predict what's gonna happen in Ruin, but I'm curious if I should even talk about them because Ruin just dropped. Ruin just released. So it would be kind of dumb of me to talk about his final theories because none of them are released. And also, let's be honest here, MatPat, as much as MatPat voiced these, Tom probably wrote them because MatPat wanted to leave Tom. Like, the people who watch Game Theory, they're not going to make Tom's like, all right, guys, let me change everything MatPat said in the past. Tom's going to be like, hey, let's write these scripts, but this is also what I believe. And MatPat's like, all right, that makes sense to just continue off of that. I'm just waiting for Ruin to come to Xbox. I feel so bad. Dude, I bought Security Breach on Xbox for a video, but I know deep in my heart that thing is never gonna, like, Steel Wool's never gonna be on time for anything Xbox.
Number of listings is astronomical.
Gamer.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, and the final part of my FNAF timeline, where today, we're bringing our story to a close by talking about the most complicated and controversial part of the timeline, the part that I've been dreading most of all, the end. The moment where we're finally forced to come to some definitive and difficult answers trying to explain what the heck we were watching in Security Breach. The last 2 episodes have been about death. The death of Afton's family, deaths of multiple children, the death of the franchise itself as Mike and Henry figuratively and literally burn it all down. Today's episode, though, and the current end of this franchise, is instead all about rebirth, the return of old characters in new forms, and the controversial rebirth of a franchise entering the next era of its story.
This is when he does the whole Clara Afton thing, which I don't blame him for because there was no clear answer as to who rebooted Five Nights at Freddy's and who rebooted the franchise, and this was back when Tails' game was a thing, so I don't blame him. But yeah, the hand unit is the most underrated. Hand unit's awesome. They love fires in the games and Financial Freddy's. I can't wait for FNAF 3 to come out. Imagine as soon as Tom took over, he just said Gregory isn't a robot and that Matt's an idiot. That would be the most... Okay, so if you guys don't know, Food Theory Santi, the guy that just took over Food Theory Santi, made a good video. It was about Feastables, and he said he didn't mean to, but he went at Mr. Beast. He went at him for a deceptive video. He claims to be a deceptive marketing video. Santi went at Mr. Beast, sniper aimed to the head and took a kill shot, aimed right for his face, right in between the eyes. Okay, if Tom did that, it would be friendly fire. Because it would be MatPat. Santi went for Mr. Beast, so it's another YouTuber, but it's not Friendly Fire because it's another YouTuber, not part of Team Theorist. But if Tom did that to MatPat, it would be Friendly Fire. Santi's my favorite new host. Dude, Food Theory is so good. Food Theory is so underrated, and Santi is my favorite host. Oh, I need to see that video. Precision orbital strike, Mr. Beast. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, he went at Mr. Beast.
But before
halfway through the video, you're like, stop, he's already dead. He went after
due to
his
scheduling
face.
conflicts, I won't be able to have any live talk back after this episode. I know, I promised one, I was really excited about it, but I just couldn't make it work with my schedule and all the other guests' schedules. That said, I still do plan on doing one over the coming weeks with special guests. Just make sure that you're subscribed and either have all notifications turned on, or you're just watching our community tab for the announcement as to when that's going to happen. And now, without any further ado, we finally reach the end and a new beginning to our story.
Why is the stream in the shorts format? Because Fear, I'm testing it. I'm testing how the viewership works. I'm testing how many people in chat have never seen my channel before. Just say I in chat. How about this? Say I in chat if this is the first time you've interacted with me or my channel, and say Freddy in chat if you've seen my videos and you recognize me from somewhere else. Do you love FNAF? Of course, that's my entire channel. I still haven't watched the new Food Theory videos. They're good, trust me. Are you a FNAF fan? Yeah, Freddy. Okay, so some of you have seen me from other places. I'm just curious.
Fazbear Entertainment was dead.
There is no need for you to return to work next week, as Fazbear Entertainment is no longer a corporate entity.
All debts had been paid, all assets redistributed. The company was outright dissolved. Even the memories of the horrors that had happened there started to fade away in the public consciousness. The people were gone too. William was dead. Henry was gone. A whole generation of young Emilys and Aftons had lost their lives to the horrors of the pizzeria. All of them collateral damage to the man in the bunny suit. Everyone the company had ever touched was dead and gone. Well,
that was a sound
Pay your
effect.
child support, you deadbeats! I'm keeping the diamond ring. I also set the house on fire.
Clara Afton. She'd been there in the early days, back when things with William were good.
And there's just an Afton. Even if you marry into the Afton family, you just become obsessed with fire.
It had the perfect home, a thriving
Why are
business,
you
the
all
ideal
saying
family.
Freddy?
But shortly after their youngest son died,
can you
things
recap all
started
the
to
lore
change.
you
William
know?
had become
If you want me to recap all of FNAF lore, if you want to recap of FNAF lore, I mean, if you're new, like I don't even know if you're new to Five Nights at Freddy's, but this is just general. If you're new to FNAF and you need like theories and you want to watch stuff, watch this video that I'm watching. It's on Game Theory, and watch it on your own. Just watch it 1 speed. That's a great way to get into it. What is Afton's last name? William Afton's last name is actually Krabby Patty.
Distant, lost in his work, obsessive. She had watched him change from this irritatingly brilliant man that she had fallen in love with to a drunken monster struggling to hold himself together. And despite her trying to reach out to him in those desperate days, he was just too far gone.
Crazy Puffs, I have no idea what that is. That sounds so much better at a higher speed.
Admit it, you wanted to let me in.
For her sake, she had to leave the relationship. And from there, she largely faded into obscurity. A mystery from William's past. A footnote in his history. And that was fine for her. She wanted to leave that part of her life behind. She tried to move forward, never wanting to hear the name Freddy Fazbear again. A time defined by
Star Cup, I want to, but I don't want to at the same time. Because it means I have to play FNAF 2, and I have to play FNAF Security Breach.
Mistakes and broken promises. But then, the paperwork started to arrive. As Fazbear Entertainment began to close as a corporate entity, suddenly her mail was flooded with notifications, requests, obligations. She had been there since the beginning, helping William in the early days of his business. And now, as a shareholder and sole living member of the Afton family, all copyrights and trademarks of both Afton Robotics and Fazbear Entertainment passed on to her. Memories of this past life that she had long left behind. Looking at the blueprints, the contracts, the memos, she felt old wounds begin to reopen. The regrets of a happy family that had been torn away from her. William had always been brilliant. That's what had attracted her to him in the first place. But he'd also been too blinded by obsession and pride. He was too jealous, too petty, too unable to actually see a bigger picture. But now, holding the paperwork that contained decades of heartbreak and trauma, she realized it was her turn. She was holding the power. This was her chance. And one thought resonated in her head.
I have to pay all the years of taxes that William missed out.
I will put them back together. I will put them all back together. She would be the one to rebuild this family, to rebuild the pieces of that shattered life, to reclaim the kids that Fazbear had stolen from her. But how? Looking at William's work now laid out before her, she knew that he had been onto something, collecting remnant, robotic humanoids, digital conscience transference. The pieces were all in place. They were just scattered, fragmented. It was almost like there were too many ideas going in too many different directions. It was such an important idea that she reiterated that point to herself. There were too many ideas going in too many different directions. That said, there had to be a way to save it all. She just needed to put it all back together.
That was Matt Pat commenting on behalf of Clara Afton.
But how? To rebuild her family, she would first need to rebuild the franchise that had stolen them away from her. With ownership over the characters,
I love how we haven't seen any Afton
patents, the Fazbear name, she
That's
converted the
actually
corporation
so
back to an
true.
LLC structure for smaller businesses that are usually family-owned. The irony was fitting. From there, she would need remnant, and lots of it. Remnant was the key. Clearly, in the later years of his life, William had been using Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals as a remnant farm, sending robots to kids' birthday parties in the hopes of nabbing bits of the stuff here and there. But clearly, it wasn't enough. He had, what, like 4, maybe 5 animatronics going out every week? No. It was a decent idea.
Ooh, this is FNAF AR integration.
Start clean with the power of Clorox.
But to get the remnant they required, it needed scale. Dozens, hundreds of animatronics, all out there, all gathering remnant from unsuspecting customers. But to do that would require help, something William would never ask for. William had kept everything in-house. His obsession with control limited him. Clara, though, she wasn't nearly that precious. A plan like this required partners, people outside of Fazbear to do the heavy lifting. So she contacted a mid-sized delivery company, DLZ Shipping Solutions, to help build replicas of all the original animatronics. And with meal delivery apps being all the rage, why not an animatronic delivery service? Order one to celebrate your birthday, your Halloween party. How about a 4th of July picnic? We'll invite Liberty Chica and 4th of July Freddy on over.
Dude, I would love some 4th of July Freddy. Liberty Chica kind of looks cringe.
Would make sure that they made skins for every occasion. Chocolate Bonnies for Easter, Shamrock Freddy's for St. Patrick's Day, Dia de las Muertos Chicas. And thus, the Fazbear Funtime service was born.
That's right. With the Fazbear Funtime service, you'll never be alone again. You'll always have someone watching your back.
Was it ridiculous? Absolutely. Was it a sellout? No doubt. It was exactly the sort of thing that William would have hated, but it needed to be done to get enough remnant. Normally, the novelty of ordering an animatronic.
You just order it and you just... Kid goes missing. Oh, I wonder where it went. Definitely wasn't the animatronic that I brought in that conveniently coincides when this kid goes missing.
Animatronic wore off after, like, what, 1?
Is Chocolate Bonnie edible? Yes. AR being canon is crazy. It is actually.
2 times, but with new skins for new holidays, suddenly you had yourself an animatronic perfect for every occasion. It would keep people hooked. It would keep them ordering the latest and greatest that Fazbear Entertainment LLC had to offer. And all the while, they'd be collecting and returning the remnant back to her. In a word, it was brilliant. There was just one problem with it. No one trusted the Fazbear name. The company's brand was still mud in the public eye. No one would want to hire animatronics from the restaurant franchise known for murdering children. Nothing kills a party quite like the threat of death, you know. So she needed to find a way to discredit the stories that had come before. She needed to win back the public's affections, reactivate some nostalgia for the spooky stories of their childhoods. She needed a game. Multiple games, in fact.
They lied to us. They lied to all of us. They told us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer. But that's not true at all. Those indie games were designed to...
Why 2 times speed? Because I'm literally watching every single Five Nights at Freddy's game theory video for a video. And I know that it might be hard on some of your ears, but I have to be honest with you. I need to get this done for a video, and I have to get the script out, and I have to voice over the script. So I'm spending time with all of you wonderful people, but I also got to get this done. Who do you think Tape Girl is? I think that sadly she's just lost. We'll never know her name. She's just a character who was an unfortunate casualty of, you know, Glitch Trap. Or the thing.
Conceal and make light of what happened. This isn't just an attempt to rebrand. It's an elaborate cover-up.
Struggling game developers were a dime a dozen online, most working on their magnum opus between shifts at the Dollar General. So she found one. Steve just picked him out of obscurity. The right mix of desperate and doofus willing to say and do anything for a couple of...
Doofus.
$100, and he fell right in line, as expected, delivering stupid little things with dumb generic names like Mangle's Quest, Balloon Boy's Air Adventure, Five Nights at Freddy's. Bad gameplay with even worse graphics, but hey, they got the job done. People were suddenly talking about the clues inside of these things, searching for the hidden lore. They were actively making
So he thinks that Mangle's Quest, all of those games are the ones that were released, and Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is canon.
Jokes about dead kids at pizzerias. Her husband's twisted history of serial murder had suddenly been reduced to a mere Nancy Drew mystery to be solved. The plan had worked. Freddy Fazbear's was suddenly more popular than ever. Things were going shockingly well. Her takeover and reboot of the franchise was full and complete. Suddenly infused with cash, she built the largest, most...
What time does the FNAF song so by? Alright, see you, Tiffany. Wait, do they get mind controlled by Mimic 1 or Glitch Trap? I believe that she ends up dead. I think that she enjoys... I think it's the same fate as Jeremy, where she ends up dying. What do you think deals with Vanny and Vanessa twin? I don't think they're twins. I think Vanny is just a part of Vanessa's mind. What do you think of FNAF AR? Garbage.
Most ambitious project yet, the Mega Pizzaplex. William had always been so visionary, but always thought so small scale. He was careful to a fault. Not her, though. She knew that this latest project needed to be big. It needed to be flashy. It needed to be a palace for children. A place that got people talking and checking out the latest in Fazbear products. So with a steady supply of remnant flowing in, it was finally time. The stage was set. It was time to get to her real goal, literally rebuilding a family. Mark.
If I was Clara Afton, I would not rebuild William Afton. I would family without him.
2035. The first was obvious. The crying child, her little boy, the one that was the first to get ripped away from her. She'd seen down in his bunker that William had gotten very close to replicating artificial humans using animatronic technology. And so that's exactly what she would do. Rebuild her boy from the ground up. His shaggy brown hair, his favorite striped shirt, even down to small details that no one would notice, like the band-aid on his left knee. William's research even found ways of making animatronics that could bleed and process food, making them virtually indistinguishable from a typical human. He would never have any idea of what he actually was unless he was explicitly told. The only thing...
Until he had his arm sliced off. Like that.
Things that could possibly ruin the illusion were any overrides to his internal systems.
What does Ghost Trap
to say,
do to
interfere with the cameras that he had in his eyes, or cause some sort of a core reboot to his hard drive, or X-ray his metallic bones, then yeah, he would be exposed. But otherwise, to the outside world, he was just
not good
things. Normal human boy. She worked down in the bowels of the Pizzaplex, giving him life, but it was one thing to build him. It was another to help him remember his identity. He died so young, so early in their history that there was no preserved memories for him, no documentation that she could just download into his digital brain. So bit by bit, she...
Which video is this? This is the last part of MatPat's timeline. If you're new here, just saying I'm making a video where I'm watching every single game theory, and then I'm writing if MatPat ever solves FNAF. So I'm watching them all at a high speed so I can get through all of them. I already have some notes taken, but I'm watching them all, and then I'm going to work on the script off stream. How does Gregory Cranes escape?
In a corner of the room, she made a makeshift
He's a robot?
A reminder of their happier days. The family recreated 2 brothers, a sister, a father, and the mother at the head.
I love how MatPat said brothers, and one of them is just missing a head. Yeah, that's my brother, Steve.
Of the table, the one in charge, the one in command, the one bringing all of this to fruition. But his progress was admittedly slower than she would have liked. At first, he could only communicate through simple ones and zeros, then rudimentary drawings and crude letters. But bit by bit, images of his past life started to come through in balloons,
binary
colors, houses,
code,
bears, and faces, birthday parties, all for me. Gregory was alive. As the robot boy embraced her, she felt a warmth that she hadn't in decades. This was the joy that she'd been working towards. This was what
As the old order crumbles.
It was all for her.
I just want to say that while I love MatPat, I love his theories, love what he's done for the FNAF space and gaming space and just YouTube in general, I gotta say this theory, Clara Afton, while I understand why he went this route, at the same time, that's a wild one.
Son, back in her arms again. The plan was working. She had to keep going. Next was William. If the family was truly going to be put together, she would need him. And she knew exactly where he was, in the ruins of that old Freddy Fazbear's pizza.
Do we think the tally marks and rune give a message? They're meant for something, we just haven't solved it.
The place where Henry had trapped him. In fact, that's specifically why she insisted on building the Pizzaplex there over the sinkholes. The best place to hide what her true intentions were with the entire operation. Digging through the wreckage, she found him. He was right where she thought he'd be. Seeing the putrid shell of the Springtrap suit, though, was not something she was prepared for. The rotting corpse of William Afton was disgusting. Scorched flesh fused into the fur lining. Hollow black sockets where eyes once were. A smell that reeked of burned carbon and bloody iron. He was no longer flesh. He was just the tangled sinews of a creature that was once called human. How far this brilliant man had fallen. It was clear that her work was cut out for her on this one. Afton was practically lifeless. The man may not have been able to die, but he was about as close as you could come. And his body would need a lot of reconstruction. Replacement arms and endoskeleton reinforcements were the top priority. Maybe pulled from their new line of glam rock animatronics. You'd have to see.
But the problem with this theory is that even MatPat said immediately after that the Ruin DLC immediately proved this theory is false. So while I understand what he was trying to cook, eventually he burned the food. He's gone for 3 months. Do we think the tally marks from staff bots are also smart for Steel Wool because they don't have to model millions of different humans? Yeah, also it tries to make the game scary because they're trying to do that.
See if they had any spare body parts lying around that they could steal. In the meantime, though, she threw the husk that was once her husband into a life support pod infused with aerosolized remnant to help keep him stable. But more important than recovering his body was recovering his mind. In his current state, he was comatose, an empty shell. Severe brain damage starts at temperatures over 108 degrees Fahrenheit, 42 degrees Celsius, and years of repeated fires had burned his brain to goo. Gone was the brilliant, frustrating mind that had...
Wait, so is he alive by remnant, or does she think that he's actually alive? Because if she thinks he's actually alive, what did he eat for 30 years? His costume? Was that edible? Vegan leather?
brought her to him in the first place, but she had a plan. Unlike her darling boy Gregory, Afton had found ways to record his consciousness. Fundamentally, the brain is only a series of electrical connections after all, so why couldn't you replicate that in the form of a standard circuit board? In essence, you could create a digital consciousness. And one thing she knew about William, he was nothing if not cautious. A planner. Someone who had backup plans to his backup plans. And sure enough, there it was, buried in piles of old animatronic CPUs, a record of Afton himself. But she needed someone to test it.
Someone was definitely here during the night. It had to have been the client. I mean, they sent us that stuff in the first place with no explanation, told us to scan it, said it would expedite the process so we wouldn't need to program any pathfinding ourselves.
Unlike the other games that she'd paid to have made in the past, this one had a different purpose. This wasn't about PR, it was about getting William back up and running, spreading his virus to the masses.
You acknowledge.
Yeah, he's got to get his virus everywhere. Oh, Willie, do you mind getting your virus all over this? Yeah, I don't know, Matt Pat. I don't know what we were cooking with that one. I think the remnant fed him when he was hungry. Yeah, he just took chunks out of his arm. It's very unsafe to have what the heck? Another user. I don't know about that. Is the burn trap the mimic? If so, then where did the mimic get the flesh? No, the mimic and burn trap are two separate things. To anyone that I've spoken to that's tried telling me that burn trap and mimic are the same, they haven't been able to provide good evidence, so I haven't had a good case presented for it. Maybe someone in chat has heard a good case for it, but besides that, I have heard nothing good, no good arguments for why that's the case.
That Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for accidental digital consciousness transfers, real-world manifestations of digital characters.
She hired a new developer, Silver Parasol Games, to scan the boards and bring her husband into the
Fear,
system.
I was
Because
thinking
of
the exact
immersive nature
same
of VR,
thing.
William's consciousness would be able to merge,
Can't even get mad at you.
giving him a new body, a new agency. There was just one complication. Afton's hold wasn't as powerful as she had hoped. He wasn't able to gain complete control. The first trial run, Jeremy, was so desperate to escape from his grasp that he sliced his own face off with a paper shredder. Messy. Afton's followers were reluctant, to say the least. But it was the second attempt.
That was
looked like
creepy.
they had
That was
the
actually a
potential to kill two
creepy
birds with one
edit.
stone. Enter Vanessa. Mrs. Afton wanted a surrogate daughter. Her darling Elizabeth would have been a young woman at this point if she had lived. And Clara wanted someone who wasn't Elizabeth but could be just like her. Could she have just rebuilt her like Gregory? Sure, but she decided against it because she wanted an actual human mother-daughter connection. Well, that, and it would be redundant and narratively unsatisfying to have two robot kids in the same family. What could she say? William had put a lot of tools on the table for her to use, and she was planning on using them all. Plus, Elizabeth had always been so loyal to Daddy. It was time to give her a second chance, a true choice. And Vanessa seemed to be the perfect candidate to fill the role.
Your dad's name was Bill. Your dad didn't play it.
Poor Vanessa. She just got dragged into the family beef. If the mimic was Afton, then how would the mimic be in ruins since the blob tangled? Just don't even. I'm telling you, just don't even go down that route. That would be hilarious though if Scott actually added Ligma into Five Nights at Freddy's and it was just like Ligma, or Steel Wool added that at some point. It was like an April Fool's, just audio file. Look what I found, guys, and it's just like, look, the audio file is named Ligma, and you click on it, and then it's just Ligma balls right there.
Yeah, did he? He used to make your mum look bad in court. He manipulated you. I know your mum. After she lost the custody case. I was supposed to be a good girl.
She started as a QA tester at Silver Parasol Games, a VR game development company that was part of her plan to bring back William. But more importantly, Vanessa checked all the correct boxes. Right age, blonde, green eyes, with a fondness for flowers and the outdoors. In many ways, it was her daughter all over again. Except it wasn't just looks and personality. What really mattered was Vanessa's mind. Underconfident, coming from a broken home, motherless, able to be manipulated. Yes, she would do nicely. She would be the one to save dear old Daddy,
gosh,
just as the
Mrs.
real
Afton.
Elizabeth would want it.
The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, except it's not the apple falling from the tree. The apple just was from another tree. That is exactly the same as the previous tree.
I will make you proud, Daddy.
While testing the VR game, William's digital consciousness merged with Vanessa. Oh sure, she fought, fragmenting Afton's code into a series of tapes hidden across the game, trying to do web searches to regain control over her life, but it wasn't enough. She was weaker than Jeremy. She was a thrall that, despite occasional moments of lucidity, had to obey. And with Vanessa, it was a 2-for-1 deal. She was getting a daughter back, while also bringing her husband one step closer to reactivation. She just had to make sure that Vanessa was headed the right way. The reborn Gregory was an expert hacker, part of the benefits of being an Afton and a robot, so Clara had him keeping tabs on Vanessa.
I just love that shot of Gregory.
Hacking into her emails and trailing her therapy sessions to ensure that
Hacker Gregory on the mission.
Future Elizabeth was falling in line. If any of the therapists started to ask too many questions, they were promptly dismissed from their positions. And while Gregory kept tabs on Vanessa's personal life, Mrs. Afton made sure to clear a path for her professionally. With Silver Parasol's collapse at the hands of the anomaly, she then had to possess Vanessa bring the contaminated circuit boards to DLZ shipping and the Fazbear Funtime service. More glitches, more Remnant, more Afton. But it was her last move that was the best. In a true masterpiece of poetry, she brought Vanessa over to be chief security officer at the Pizzaplex. A true family tradition to don the hat and badge, and all it took was a recommendation from the top as well as some emails marked for deletion. Sure, Vanessa didn't have relevant experience for the job, but when it comes directly from the CEO, does it really matter? Husband, son, daughter. A corpse, a robot, a human. All that was left was Michael. Poor, troubled Michael. The boy that killed her youngest. The one that would spend years
What about the fire escape ending? Does Vanessa have a twin or clone? Nah, it's non-canon ending.
trying to make his guilty conscience right again. A self-professed protector. Well, she knew she needed him to complete.
Not all the endings of Five Nights at Freddy's are Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach are canon.
The family, something told her that the problem had already solved itself. Something had shifted when using Glamrock Freddy to excavate the buried pizza place.
I have been here before. I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path. I have changed. My friends are here, but I can protect you. I am not me.
Maybe it was the remnant that had coursed through Michael's veins. Maybe it was the spirit of Michael living on as a protector, but he was there, somewhere inside of Glamrock Freddy. She could feel it.
That's the weird part about that. I know that Michael being Glamrock Freddy has kind of fallen apart. That theory doesn't really, a lot of people don't believe that anymore. So Help Wanted 2 didn't exactly help that theory. But at the same time, it is so interesting that Glamrock Freddy calls the blob, "These are my friends." Like, that doesn't, it just gets glossed over. I'm telling you guys, it just gets glossed over. People forget "these are my friends." Like, that line is so polarizing and important, but it's kind of like just forgotten in the grand scheme of things.
Just like that, she'd won. She'd done it. Sure, there were still some kinks to work out, some final brainwashing of Nessa, some rehabilitation of William, but they were there, finally, all together again under one roof. The Aftons reunited. A happy ending. And that's how it could have ended. That's how it should have ended, had it not been for a few unanticipated developments. For one, something was just wrong with the Pizzaplex. Almost as if the entire building was haunted, possessed. Puppet plushies hiding on ceilings, behind crates, places that they had no earthly way of belonging. Staff bots with greasy tears down their eyes, acting like they were being puppeteered by some sort of a nightmare. Even their sounds had the echo of nightmares long past. It was as though a guardian spirit of the past refused to move on. As long as her husband was around, it too would linger. Only now, it wasn't just in one body, but it was in the essence of the building itself. She had seen stories of houses built on burial grounds getting possessed by angry spirits, but she'd never assumed that it could be real. Then again, in a world of living spirit metal and mind-controlling glitch.
Bro, if you don't believe that, if this is like actually what happens, I don't think it is, because I don't think Mrs. Afton is canon, but if in reality, if you're in a world with that, and you just genuinely just ignore the fact that like everything's spirit metal, all these spirits, and you're like, building on top of the haunted location, that means obviously nothing, and you're just like surprised. What? How did that happen?
Who would she be so judgmental? The whole thing was ridiculous. Why would this be the line that she refused to cross?
What FNAF game scared you the hardest? FNAF 4.
After all, the Pizzaplex was built over the burial ground of angry spirits, but it was the power cords that finally convinced her that something was wrong. Suddenly, these cords were striped black and white, like the security puppet from generations ago. The very foundations of this place, the materials and wires that constituted it, were rebelling
One of the best
against
FNAF theories of all
the
time
quest
from
to bring
John
them all
FNAF.
together again. And it was being helped by something else, something slithering through the building. Maybe they were connected, she couldn't be sure, but a blob of living wires could be heard oozing through the walls, stealing pieces and parts of the old animatronics showcased in Rockstar Row. She could only assume that it was a byproduct of all the remnant they'd been collecting. From Afton's testing, she knew that both light and dark remnant existed, one of positive emotions and the other created from anguish, anger, agony. Perhaps this thing was an amalgamation of all the darkest parts of the pizzeria's history, a collection of the hatred still housed inside these defunct endoskeletons.
Which FNAF game pisses you off the most? Which FNAF game pissed me off the most? Ooh, that's a great question. FNAF 2 pisses me off because Toy Bonnie can genuinely screw your entire game. Toy Bonnie in FNAF 2 is Martin. I don't know if Martin's here, but Martin has to admit that Toy Bonnie screws your game so hard, and you can't even prepare or account for it. It just if he's in your vent, you're done.
Suits. As long as it was left alone, it seemed to be harmless. But if any,
yeah, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about like that ruins it. FNAF 3, not really that challenging. FNAF 4, you can get unlucky with timing, but it's possible. I don't know, just Toy Bonnie in that game pisses me off.
Afton, outside of Michael, got too close, it would lash out wildly. Even young Gregory, looking to punish the family that had been complicit in its horrible creation. Little did she know, though, that Gregory should have been her biggest concern. That bringing the family together would have some unforeseen consequences. Gregory was normally the goodest of boys. She had literally built him that way. But lately, he'd been disappearing more and more often, disobeying her orders, requests. She knew that he loved playing on the arcade machines once the Pizzaplex closed, being so good as to top the leaderboard on practically all of them. But lately, he was nowhere to be found. She suspected his absence had to do with Glamrock Freddy's failed performance the other night. He malfunctioned live on stage.
Wait, he read GGY and got the impression. Interesting.
Almost as though the core programming of Freddy responded to seeing this rebuilt small boy. Almost like it awakened.
I mean, that would make sense with GJY because he leads the therapist in because he has a pass, so.
Something inside of him. She'd have to make sure that Vanessa was on the lookout for him. But she'd soon come to learn that Vanessa wasn't enough. Whether it was the influence of the nightmare puppet or a reawakened hatred of animatronics seated deep in Gregory's code, something had caused him to rebel. To rip apart each animatronic in the Pizzaplex. Bit by bit, this boy was tearing down the empire that she'd so painstakingly built. Freeing Vanessa from her mind control, destroying the remains of Afton in the basement, setting Glamrock Freddy loose. As her carefully created world crumbled around her one more time, she began to plot her revenge. She would have to bring them all to ruin. And there you have it, my friends. Nearly a decade in the making, my FNAF timeline for where the franchise is here in 2023. The year of Fazbear Frights, by the way. As always, it wouldn't be right for me to finish without going over some of the more controversial takes that I just handed out. I think we can all agree that this part of the timeline was always going to be the hardest. So let me just break down some of the major points. First of all, the biggest swing of this episode, and obviously the one that everything else rests upon, Mrs. Afton being the CEO of Fazbear Entertainment LLC. Here's why I went with this route. Now, first and foremost, the head of Fazbear Entertainment is the single biggest mystery that we're meant to solve at this point in the lore. The Ultimate Guide brings it up repeatedly. Who's running the show? Who's okaying these decisions?
This is what I'm talking about. A lot of people called me crazy when I was like, oh, the CEO. I made a video on it. It's on the channel if you guys want to go check it out. But I made a video about it, and I was talking to some people, and they were like, oh, it's not that important right now. It's not what we're focused on. But I've heard that the book, the Freddy Files, talks about the CEO. And I do think Steel Wool left clues as to who it is, but I sadly don't think it was enough to give it away. So...
And in the security breach memos, we get multiple mentions of someone manipulating things from the top down. Whoever this is, they are the person driving forward every other facet of late-stage FNAF lore here. They're the puppet master who's hiring the indie dev. They're the ones relaunching the brand, building the Pizzaplex over the burial ground. So everything at the end of the timeline relies on this one singular answer. Now, as I see it, there are two possibilities here. One, an adult robot Elizabeth, like we see older versions of robot kids in the fourth closet, or Mrs. Afton. Could it be someone completely new to the franchise? Absolutely yes, but in a game with so many returning faces and repeated themes, it would be pretty random and arbitrary. So, between these two girl bosses, who then would it be? Well,
Please not Robo Elizabeth Afton.
Elizabeth always wants to please her daddy, so she'd be most likely wanting to bring him to life.
Please
But then,
not.
what's Vanessa's role in all of this? Vanessa is clearly meant to be a parallel for Elizabeth. Same hair, same eyes, similar backstories. But if the main goal is getting the Afton family back together, it seems to clearly be the case in Security Breach, and there's no need for Vanessa to be involved at all. We already have Elizabeth running the show. It would also mean that we suddenly have 2 robot kids running around, which feels narratively repetitive and quite frankly kind of dumb. Now look at Mrs. Afton. We know next to nothing about her outside of any clues that we can get from Immortal and the Restless and Bellora's song. But what her being head of Fazbear does is make every other piece of the lore fit. Suddenly, you can have one of every other type of character. One robot kid in Gregory, one brainwashed human in Elizabeth/Vanessa, one OG corpse in William, and one possessed animatronic in Mike. Narratively, it makes everything else cleaner. Legally, it's also the option that makes the most sense. As I call out my narrative, she'd likely have some stake in the original company and all of its assets. So as Fazbear folds as a company, I suspect a lot of it would return back to her. But there was one clue that really sold me on this particular...
Before we get into that and his other explanation, the FNAF Security Breach book is the worst FNAF book ever. I have heard it's pretty bad. In the encyclopedia, I have seen it. It's pretty bad. It's sadly, FNAF literature at points has really low lows.
Direction, and that was this right here, in the post-it room, the big lore central of Security Breach, a dinner table scene with the whole family, including the mother. And not only is she there, she is at the head of that table, the position of highest honor and responsibility. She is the one in charge, with William being relegated off to the side. That one scene shows that we have to include Mom in there somewhere, and the only place it makes sense for her to be is at the top. Now, there is one big dilemma with my interpretation of all this. The Ultimate Guide really seems to point out that the head of Fazbear doesn't want the glitch trap virus to spread. They call out one particular email in FNAF AR where the legal team calls a cease and desist to all action about scanning the circuit boards. And even in FNAF VR, we're told that the circuit boards get stolen back by the client, presumably once they realize what danger is on there, trying to stop glitch trap before he spreads and gets out of hand. Here's the problem with that, though. If the head of Fazbear doesn't want Afton to rise again, why'd they restart the company in the first place? Why'd they build over the FNAF 6 pizzeria? Why'd they go...
I've seen this. While I do think that the person would want to take it away, I think what it does is it makes the argument that the person just wanted Vanessa to be affected more obvious.
Through an elaborate cover-up to make the possessed Vanessa an important...
Hot take: FNAF World is connected to Ultimate Custom Night. I mean, it is by that like one Easter egg, but I don't think so.
Part of the company just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It would be the most inconsistent series of actions ever, but I did want to call attention to it since it seems to be the route that the official guide is trying to steer us towards. Moving on to minor point number 1, the Five Nights at Freddy's games were made by the rogue indie developer. Here's the thing, FNAF VR opens with this line.
That's why we have recreated many of these completely fictitious scenarios, lies that you've been fed over the last several years, into a hilarious VR game.
It's recreating the lies told to you by the indie developer, and since Help Wanted has direct recreations of FNAFs 1 through 3, it means the games must be part of the fabrications that this developer made up. Also, all of this is heavily implied in the story of the same name, Help Wanted and Tales of the Pizzaplex, hence FNAF 1 through 3 canon games within the lore of the series. Big swing number 2, the elephant, or ghost in the room, Charlie infecting the Pizzaplex. John from the channel FNAF has made some great findings about Charlie's influence over the Pizzaplex. The cables that look like the striped arms of the puppet, the nightmare own plushies that you find hidden across the Pizzaplex in weird places, the staff bots with smiles and in your dreams written on the front. All of these things scream puppets. Plus, the puppet mask and not having tears in the blob seems to imply that Charlie's spirit exists elsewhere. She is still in play, and she has an important role, especially in Gregory's post-it room. The doors to the post-it room in the game's code are called Charlie doors, and inside we see a bunch of lit up nightmare staff bot heads. Suspicious, to say the least. The channel ID's Fantasy did a great theory looking at the post-it notes, concluding that the crying child / Gregory isn't alone in this room, but rather might be communicating with someone. A spirit, Charlie. Charlie's spirit seems to have pulled a poltergeist. Instead of controlling one thing, she's affecting a lot of little details, foundational elements of the Pizzaplex. And this isn't the first time that we've seen this in the franchise either. We've seen spirits communicating with people through physical writing in the survival logbook. So we know that this is an established means of spirit communication within this franchise. And I suspect that to some extent it might be Charlie's influence making Gregory go haywire. Which brings me then to my final and probably biggest controversy in recent FNAF history, Gregory as Patient 46, the evil robot mastermind.
My question is, where does Cassidy and Princess Quest come into all this? Because I don't think he's mentioned him.
Now, I know when I first came out with this theory a year ago, people were mad. But here's the thing, you don't have to take my evidence point for it anymore. The recent Tales from the Pizzaplex story, GGY, basically goes and just outright proves it. In GGY, we find out about a boy named Gregory who's getting all the high scores in the Pizzaplex arcade machine. When therapists start going missing, it's confirmed that GGY is the one that's working to bump them off. And when animatronics start getting corrupted by a mysterious glitch, GGY's letters are found inside the code. He even chooses the code name Dr. Rabbit for crying out loud. But obviously, by the time of Security Breach, Gregory is working against Burn Trap, Vanessa, and the animatronics. Why? How? Well, it's not really clear. I tend to believe that something must have happened to cause him to either lose his memory or be reset in some way. Maybe it was Charlie talking to him in his post-it room. Maybe he hit his head. Maybe it was the connection that he made with Mike on stage in Glamrock Freddy. Not exactly sure, and I don't think we have enough clues to solve any of it yet. But it makes sense from a story perspective why you'd start off evil on Afton's side and then switch to trying to destroy him and not know who he is in Security Breach. And with that, my friends, I'm wrapping this thing up. Congratulations, we are on page 40. 22,000 words of FNAF, baby. Practically just wrote myself a Tales of the Pizzaplex short story. Have I answered everything? No. Does everything fit cleanly? No. But does it feel like the best and most cohesive narrative for all these characters that addresses most of the evidence we're given? Yeah, for me, honestly, it really does. And let's be honest with ourselves, the DLC will probably come out later this year and prove me completely wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. Then comes the movie, whatever. My descent to madness continues. But regardless, I am so proud of this. This was a massive undertaking.
Remember, Matt had mainly made this because he had to retire. He knew he was going to retire. So, that's mainly why he made that. Main reason. Alright guys, I'm going to head out. Hope you guys have a great night. I appreciate everyone that joined. Subscribe. Check out the channel if you want to see some amazing FNAF content. But aside from that, I will see you guys all next time.